Hail Eris. All hail Discord. I haven't even done the switch over yet. Hang on, we'll get there. Let me do this. First of all, we get this one. Oh no, that's the wrong one, isn't it? Where's the... that's the right one. Yeah, then we do this. It's starting soon. It started. The slide has lost all sense of section. It is the 27th of Bloom in the season of confusion. So, that's normal. In the year of our Lady 2025. And I, of course, am your pastor, Eno M Koney. Welcome to the service. And hail Eris again. The chaos of weather has meant that it's not mind-meltingly hot tonight. If you can hear a small boy screaming in the background, not screaming, yelling. Yeah, that's probably more apt, yelling. That's just my son. You are full off drugs, TF2 Real Gamer 2022. That's good to hear. Or bad to hear. I don't know, depends. Like if my wife was full off drugs, then she'd die because her thyroid would clap out. So that would be bad. But it's weird that you should say that, actually, as you shall see in a short while. But I'm not messing up the order just for you. No, you can wait for the order of things to come round. You've got to show your son TF2 sometime. I'm sure he'll find his own way to it. He doesn't need me. If it's the kind of thing that he wants to play, he will find it when he's at the appropriate age, which will be in about 4 years' time, I imagine. I'm imagining that having a Steam account is the same as having a Google account or a Facebook account. You have to be 13 to have your own. So, yeah. He's found his way to Undertale. I never played Undertale. Found his way to Minecraft. I never played Minecraft. He's found his way this week to Poppy Playtime Chapter 4. None of these games I have the slightest bit of interest in. Actually, that's not true. Undertale. I always thought maybe I should play that sometime, but he got there first. Gosh darn him. And he's there playing the world-renowned classic meta adventure Undertale. 9 years old, that's what he's playing. And I'm playing Watch Dogs Legion that everyone hates. But I like it. So, there we are. That's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say somewhere, I'm sure. Oh, yeah, disclaimer this week. Let's just get this out. Yeah, that's what I've decided to go with this week. Spiritual entertainment. You heard it here first. Boom, Fnord. Yeah, I can't drop the mic because it's on a stand, but TF2 is getting a big update soon. He does love an update, my son. He gets very excited over Minecraft updates and updates to games in Roblox. And he's starting to work out the world as well. It's great. Roblox has taught him all about the world. It has taught him that... He said to me this morning, he said, Dad, imagine that you bought and owned Roblox and then you could make it good by taking all the money out of it. And I was like, there we go, you've learned. Well done. New maps for a game mode. Last update for that game mode was 13 years ago. Woo! It's a bit like GTA then. The last update for that was... Not GTA Online. I understand that's a wretched hive of scum and villainy. But let's just do the order of service briefly for those that do not know it already. We will have some deep thoughts. Kandar, of course. World of Chaos still counts as new. You'll know when it's not new anymore because I'll take new off the slide. Reflective Tarot, of course, and ending with the weekly sacrament, on which some housekeeping. On which point, some housekeeping. Obviously, all things are mortal. Everything dies. Even the universe will die in a couple of billion years. So, no need to make any sort of preparations or plans for that, per se. Got to be the heavy. What's got to be the heavy? But I was thinking, when does this end? When do the doors of the E-Chapel close? for the last time. How long can we possibly expect to get away with this without getting cancelled? Well, the answer is very simple. Until there are no more sacraments left in the sacramental jar. Obviously, I will continue to do the sacrament, but that is how many. Eris herself popped by and said, yeah, just go to the end of the jar. That'll be good enough for everyone. I'm like, it will. So that is how it will be. So you can take a look at the sacrament jar every week and now how close we are to the end and contemplate the mortality of the e-chapel. Well, does it look like it? One a week. I don't have any more than one a week. So that's the number of weeks in candy form. Everything's got to end, TF2 Real Game 2022. Can't be doing stuff forever. Who knows? It could not be an end. It could be a transformation. There is a lot of strawberry flavoured tubes to go under the bridge. If the bridge was my gobble, and so on and so forth. But, who knows what comes next? Who knows? We don't. But it's always best to plan these things in advance, I find. Or else, it gets weird. Let's go on to this week's deep thought. Won't somebody think of the children brackets of chaos? This is right. You'll like this one. Guaranteed. Oh no, I've gone game focus. I meant to go into this one. There we go. What if I pay you money? Will you stay there? Look, right. I'm hazarding. Sticky. Blimey. Wow, those are stuck. Those ones at the bottom. There. That's like. Wow, that's great. Now it looks like they're floating inside the jar. That's a year's worth easily. 40 weeks, yeah, 40 weeks to a year. I would agree with that. So it's going to be a while yet that the e-chapel has its doors wide open. Not enough. Yeah, but like I said, it could be a transformation. It's not going to, I don't know what the hand of Eris has in store for me. All I know, she said, go to the end of the jar, and we'll see what happens next. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know you can set certain. You're in control of certain things, and that is one of the things I'm in control of. So it's a long time. I mean, that's the other thing that comes into view, is that I religiously, one would say, used to watch some streamers, and they got jobs and they did stuff and they did whatever, and I couldn't watch them anymore. And that's how it was. Now, the good thing you have is that you are guaranteed. One, I already have a job, so I'm not going to change that. Two, this is a service. It happened because Twitch streamers who play games and stuff, they get on and go, I'm just going to go for 7 hours or something, and then people are talking to me in the chat for 7 hours. It's like having a shift at another job. It's nuts, right? So that is unsustainable. It's only the Twitch streamers who do the thing for a job, they can sustain that, and that that's dependent on them getting enough moolah for it and what have you. But this is a service isn't supposed to last. Imagine that. Imagine you went to any other spiritual vendor and they made you stay in a service for 8 hours every week. You'd be like, whoa, I can't do it anymore. It's too much of a commitment. Even certain popular other churches, their services are no more than, I understand, 2 hours-ish, max, on a Sunday or a Saturday or whenever they do their churching. So, it is a lot. It's a managed commitment. What if the service is really good? Well, okay. Well, to be fair, all churches do have they have extra services that I do understand run a bit longer. But I mean, anything really. The only thing, if you can opt into something like a Netflix series, you might sit there for 8 hours and watch it, because at the end of every hour they go, still watching? You want to watch more? Go on, like that. And if you nah, I'll wait. you could just back out, yeah. But I think with live performance, it's slightly less easy to just, like, unless you're at a festival or something where you could just like drift in and out and stuff. But yeah, generally speaking, if you just walk out before the end of a live events are like, but you might miss something. Whoa, don't go anywhere. You might miss something like that. And Twitch streaming is very, very similar. Anyway, let's think of the Children of Chaos. Now, I have been reading the autobiography of Al Jurgensen of Ministry. Does everyone, the congregation, that is you, TF2, Real Game 22, do you know who Al Jurgensen is? I'm going to wait. I can wait. I just want to know, there are people who are going to be watching this asynchronously afterwards. Say, you do know who Al Jurgensen of Ministry is. Love that guy. I too. He's a genius. And everything that he has done artistically is right up my alleyway. Yeah, it's absolutely love that stuff. But reading his autobiography, I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't like to meet him. And it's not that don't meet your heroes because they might turn out to be Neil Gaiman type of thing. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the fact that this guy did a lot of drugs, stole a lot of cars for fun, and did some absolutely appalling things to people he knew, including one Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails. Yeah, because he was like, well, he talked about how, because Trent Reznor was a roadie for Ministry, possibly Revco, before he was Nine Inch Nails, and he what is it? He bought. Oh, it was like a synthesizer or a drum machine. He's not like UTF2 Real Gamer 2022. I'm imagining. I mean, maybe he is. I don't know. But you're like school and stuff doing like computers and shit, which like it doesn't say. I would say that it's pretty hard to keep on the curriculum of an academic institution while you've done as much heroin, crack, and cocaine as Al Jurgensen had been doing, in his teenage years. So, might want to step back. But yeah, Trent Reznor bought this thing along with him, whatever it was, that Al Jurgensen wanted to buy off Trent Reznor, but Trent Reznor, no, it has sentimental value, it's mine. In fact, Al Jurgensen didn't even want Trent Reznor as a roadie. He just said, I want to buy that thing. And in the end, they parlayed that Trent Reznor would lend him the thing as long as he could go with it and be a roadie. So fine. And apparently they hazed that guy, Trent Reznor. They were really, hi MK Zariel. We're just talking about Al Jurgensen and how he hazed Trent Reznor during a tour way back. And they were really horrible to him, and I think they stole or broke whatever thing it was. And Trent Reznor was like, he suddenly came to them during the tour. Was like, "Oh, my grandmother's sick. I'm going off now." And right, you don't know who Al Jurgensen is, and you don't know who Trent Reznor is. MK Zariel. That would be very interesting to me if that's the case. All anarchists should know who those two people are, I would say. But anyway, yeah, he's like, I'm off to see my grandmother. I don't want to be here anymore. And Al Jurgensen's reaction to that, to the fact that he'd met this guy he didn't know. And, look, I would go in the order, Google Trent Reznor. And then, after you've done that, Google Al Jurgensen. So, yeah. That's the order, I would say. Trent Reznor, very easy, I think. Al Jurgensen, less easy. I'll explain it in a minute, but I just want to finish this bit. So, yeah, all he had to say. So, Al Jurgensen met this guy, didn't know him, wanted a piece of kit off him. The guy was like a bit hero worship. He said, I want to go on a road tour with you. He did it. They bullied him to within an inch of his life and stole his precious piece of equipment until he left. And Al Jurgensen's thought was like, well, if he's not dead at this point, he's probably okay in the music industry after that. Like, we're just preparing him for a life in the music industry. That's what we're doing. And I'm like, yeah, this guy lives on a completely different vibrational plane to me, obviously. seeing as he liked stealing cars and doing a lot of drugs. To explain, Al Jurgensen is the musical genius by Trent Reznor. Well, I suppose he did. So Al Jurgensen is the musical genius behind Ministry, The Revolting Cocks, Lard with Jello Biafra. A lot of... he basically invented industrial music. Basically. There was a bit of post-punk stuff before Al Jurgensen and Ministry that was tending towards the industrial, but it hadn't really formalised it. And then Al Jurgensen made a couple of albums, The Mind is a Terrible Thing to Tell, stuff like that. And that really boomed. And then, of course, Psalm 69, that was the classic one. And that was it. Industrial music was formalised. We all knew what it was. We all knew how to do it. It was all there. That is it. And of course, following on from Ministry and the Revolting Cocks was Nine Inch Nails, who Trent Reznor. Trent Reznor was probably at the point at which he put out the seminal Pretty Hate Machine, the first Nine Inch Nails album. He probably still hadn't forgiven Al Jurgensen at that point because, too soon and all that. But apparently they made up later, so that's fine. But the point is that I think that one of the things that came across to me, it has come across to me reading that autobiography and listening to various musical stylings of stuff like that, is that of all the arts, music is probably Eris's favourite because it is easy to communicate the chaos vibe musically, really, really quite simple if you've a mind to. Plus, there's, I think, I could be bold enough to say that Eris has a thing for artists generally, but that sort of tragic artistic story that we know, where artists are so wrapped up in the art that the rest of their life goes to absolute crap. I think street theatre and performance are more eristic. Yeah, but the thing about... You can make an artistic piece of work, a theatrical piece. Well, I mean, Ken Campbell, of course, he made the theatrical Illuminatus trilogy and was probably the UK's most notable Discordian. But he had assistance in putting that great Illuminatus cycle play that went on for 24 hours together with one Bill Drummond, later of the KLF. And I'm not expecting either of you to know who the KLF are at this stage in history, but you should really look it up. Yeah, because there's a book, the KLF, the band who burned £1 million, and they were they were actual Discordians as well. They were that was notably part, and their artistic process was embraced the eristic. But it still ruined their lives and made everything very difficult for them. But they've continued, after the KLF, they have continued to work in various art forms. And with that, we embrace the chaos, to a deeply spiritual, to the point where they burnt £1 million, Great British pounds sterling. They went to the Scottish island of Jura and burnt it in a brazier one night. And then they did a tour where they got to take questions about their burning of 1 million GBP, which is over $1 million. People and people were often in these sessions saying, "Well, why did you do it?" And they had to confess that although it had seemed like a perfectly decent idea at the time, they really didn't know. Honestly, they didn't know. That was the next thing, because they got so in tune with that vibe that that's what they had to do. And that's the thing. Al Jurgensen is not a noted Discordian, yeah, but he's also not a noted anything. I think, but there are two things in this autobiography that lead me to suppose that he just hasn't really connected with the whole Discordianism thing, but is that close, inches away. One is that I'm more Discordian than all of you. And yet at the same time, you claim not to be a Discordian, which does in fact make you more Discordian than all of us. So yes, TF2 Real Gamer 2022. These are the kind of outrageous claims that we like to see here in the E-Chapel. They are simultaneously true, false and meaningless all at the same time. But yeah, Al Jurgensen was a friend in the latter years of William Burroughs, he of the Naked Lunch fame, right? And the fact was that William Burroughs, in his entire life, didn't really make friends, per se. He didn't really like people at all. And certainly when he was in his late 70s, early 80s, he was like, when you get to that point, when I get to that point, I'm not going around looking for friends. What's the point? I'll be dead soon. But they met up, William Burroughs and Al Jurgensen, and that's it, you know. Like, William Burroughs grumpily told Al Jurgensen he shouldn't be drinking so much wine, that'll kill him. He should just stick to heroin, and a beautiful friendship was born. Yeah, for a few years till William Burroughs obviously clapped out. But in those few years, Al Jurgensen got to go and live in the dying years of Timothy Leary, because William Burroughs, who's one of whose very few, you know, sort of casual acquaintances, friends, you might even say, was William Burroughs. William Burroughs said, "Oh no, you should check out this Al Jurgensen guy. He's a nice guy." Yeah, and then Al Jurgensen, through a series of misadventures, ended up living in Timothy Leary's, you know, house for years, by the sound of things, because Leary was, I think, aware that he couldn't do terribly many more chemical things to his body, but he liked rock stars to come round and do drugs in front of him so he could write notes. That's chaos. So yeah, and of course Robert Ant Wilson, who did not meet Al Jurgensen, probably, and this is the point, right? I don't think that Robert Ant Wilson and Al Jurgensen would have got along at all, particularly because Robert Ant Wilson didn't. I don't think he really, like, Al Jurgensen proudly declares in his autobiography that hearing all those stories about people throwing sofas out of hotel windows, it's like, what the hell is that? We took the sofas up to the roof, set them on fire, and then threw them off the building. And I don't think Robert Ant Wilson really liked that. As do I don't think I want to take hotel furniture onto the roof of a hotel, set fire to it, and then throw it off. I don't want to. It's not in me to do that. And yet Al Jurgensen at one point in his life, probably several points in his life, thought it was a ripping way to spend an evening. Yeah? And that's my point. Robert Ant Wilson, child of chaos. Timothy Leary, who was friends with Robert Ant Wilson, pretty much a child of chaos. Too off his tits on drugs to really make a commitment to it. But there we go. KLF, children of chaos. Yeah? You got lost 24 minutes ago. I like that. Not 23 minutes ago, 24 minutes ago. If you'd have said that 24 minutes ago, I'd have put 23 on, but it's too late now. Right, I'll break this down super simple then. Each of the people I have described, Robert Ant Wilson, the KLF, Al Jurgensen, Timothy Leary, William Burroughs, who invented cut up, yeah, me, you, we are all children of chaos in various states of awareness of that state. And reading the autobiography of Al Jurgensen, I come to understand that, and this is definitely true. Say this in TF2 terms. Alright then, all the playable characters in Team Fortress 2, yes, all of them are children of Team Fortress 2, even though they may play or may suit vastly different play styles. Yeah, you see, you thought I couldn't do it, but I did. So that's the Team Fortress 2 explanation for people who can't think of things that don't involve Team Fortress 2. But for the rest of us, as I say, yeah, You know a child of chaos when you see one, I think. Do people know I'm a yes, people know I'm a child of chaos, right? Except the sniper. Okay, cool. Fuck that guy. You see, but that's the point. I could sit here and say, wow, that Al Jurgensen guy, he just sounds like he'd be a nightmare to be around. Fuck that guy. But I know, I accept. He's a child of chaos. Reading the book, you can't deny he's a child of chaos. But he doesn't talk about Discordianism, even though, as I said, he sailed that close to encountering it, but he's just not really that interested. And you've got to be prepared for that. You know, you'll meet a child of chaos, but you say Discordianism, oh, it sounds boring. Do you know what I mean? Which is fine, because honestly, well, it's not boring, and if you're a child of chaos, though, you can decide that it is. And besides, what are you saying with, oh, that sounds boring, other than I'm going to refuse to believe everything that I read, which is, of course, one of the central tenets of Discordianism. So there we are. It's just we all come at it in our own way. And when I say you know one when you see one, people who are not Discordian aren't looking at Al Jurgensen going, there's a closeted Discordian. They're not thinking that because they're not Discordians either. But people who look at me are like, what's with the beard and why the weird moustache and why does he usually wear t-shirts that have like logos on it, even though he's a 50-year-old man, you know? And I'm just like, well, child of chaos. I mean, I was telling a friend of mine about these services a few weeks ago, like on my birthday, as it happens, when I turned 50, and they actually stopped and asked me if I was doing okay. And what that means in layman's terms is, I've noticed you're a child of chaos. That seems a bit weird. And I said, yeah, I'm fine. I'm not taking... am I okay? Yeah, I'm not taking hotel furniture up to the roof, setting it on fire and throwing it off. So, in my book, that means I'm okay. But, if I was Al Jurgensen, and I said the same thing, well, I don't feel the urge to take hotel furniture up to the roof, set it on fire and throw it off, he'd worry that maybe he wasn't okay. And that's the point. One of the key tenets, I think, that is implied in Discordianism, and I don't think any of the writers to this point have had the time to lay it down, yeah. But one of the key principles of Discordianism as a kind of mind hack anti-religion is that people from birth are all fundamentally kind of the same but different. It's all paradoxes. I'm sorry, you're just going to have to live with that. But the difference is important because so much of the wrong things that happen in the world are based on the idea that all people are fundamentally the same. And what I've realised is that's bollocks. They're fundamentally not the same. They have things that can bind and connect them together, commonalities, overlaps, things where one reality tunnel and another have a chance to come together and form a bond. But treating people as if they're all the same is just madness. Some people like it loud, some people like it quiet. Some people like to set fire to furniture and throw it off roofs, and other people like to do a stream on Friday evening that's a Discordian service as a kind of mind hack around that whole institutionalization of religion. But we're all in the chaos vein expressing our child of chaosness. And we should, I mean, that's the aim. Everyone should be a child of chaos because chaos is freedom. So if you're not a child of chaos, you're necessarily infected with the grey face curse. Because being a child of chaos underneath it all realizes that you know who you are and you'll tell other people, I'm this, and then expect them to get over it. Or embrace it, or whatever. Yeah, and that's basically the key of what I'm talking about this week. Is 1, we should all be children of chaos. 2, that's fine. And 3, Just because somebody's very, very far away from you temperamentally doesn't mean that they're not just a child of chaos. In fact, it's fine. It shows you more. And the fact is, right, I love Ministry. I love the Revolting Cocks. I love Lard. Yeah, I love all of his musical output. I love it all. But I don't want to hang out with the guy because I'm scared to, frankly. So, but that's still, still, there's the bond. And I've always also thought, one, it's not going to happen. But two, it'll probably be fine. Probably find something to say. The fact of the matter is, Al Jourgensen's reported temperament is reported by people who go looking for the Raising Hell stuff. Yeah, he must be, from what he's produced and done in this world, a fiercely intelligent guy. And I think a fiercely intelligent guy and a quiet guy who doesn't really like hanging out with people, so pretty introverted. I think maybe, there's a chance, that he might just be quiet if he's with a guy who's quiet. We don't know because, everyone... He had a reporter help him with his autobiography. And that reporter too sounds like he likes it a bit spicy. So, we don't have any reports of what Al Jourgensen's like when he's not. William Burroughs, although famously completely, did a bunch of drugs all of his life, like I say, he didn't really like people and he was a writer and he was kind of quiet. So he and Al Jourgensen got on. Anyway, there we are. Although it does to be said that Al Jourgensen has a deep suspicion of anyone who hasn't done vast amounts of Class A drugs. So I would be there. I lost you again. Well, it doesn't matter because we kind of finished. I'm open for questions. The doctor is in, as it were. What I kind of said at the end is that even if you think someone is very, very different from you, they might not be that different if you actually meet them. But sometimes that's a bad thing. I don't know. Oh, come on. TF2 Real Gamer 2022. You've always got a question. I was just waiting for you to... It was always a stupid question as well, which is my favourite kind. But if you're not into it this week, that's fine. We can move on. Also, okay, sorry. If you were going on a motorcycle on trip in Norway, would you bring a... We went through this. Type in with one hand. I'm gonna come on to all questions in order, but first of all, tent or hammock. A motorcycle trip in Norway, probably a tent. Yeah, a tent. Yeah, there we go. I don't really even feel as if I have to explain that answer. It's just tent. So good try. And you already asked me tent or hammock, just in a general sense. And at that point, I will admit that I said hammock, but you didn't give me the context of it being a motorcycle trip through Norway. So that's why I've reversed. For that specific context, I feel a tent would be more useful. Hey, I did have to explain it. Great. How can I explain Discordianism to younger relatives? I'm struggling to find a way to talk about it that works for 8 to 12-year-olds. Well, strangely enough, my son is 9, and he games with his friends on Xbox. And I heard him once in reality, and with total unirony, he just said to his friends, "Oh yeah, my dad's streaming. He just worships the goddess of chaos, so he does this thing every Friday. It's part of his thing." Anyway, let's get back to Roblox. So from that, you could tell he is an 8 to 12-year-old. They just accept it. Children are much easier than adults. Much, much easier. You just say, well, there's Eris, and she's like a god. She is a god, but she's like the masked conjurer of gods. She shows you what's under the board, and she says, like, the universe is roiling chaos, right? But I'm not. I'm Eris, and I'm just here as the herald of chaos. And even though I have all of these godly powers, the roiling chaos is stronger than gods, whatever any other god tells you. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to get pushed around by gods or other people or anything, because the chaos ultimately makes us all free. So go away and be free, and stop listening to people who tell you that there is order, because fundamentally, cosmically, there is not. But by the way, don't be dicks to each other. You know, she probably didn't say that, right? But we can, because unlike a lot of gods, she trusts us to work out for ourselves. Don't be dicks to each other. But they're very curious about it, so I've wondered. Explain why. No. Have you ever been to Norway or any countries near Norway, and which one was your favourite? The nearest I've been to Norway is Holland, and I did love it. Right? I'll be honest, I've watched a lot of Scandi content, such as The Kingdom, the Lars von Trier series that then became Kingdom Hospital, and of course that The Girl Who Millennium trilogy, and obviously as an autistic child, my son absolutely loves trains. Yeah, and back in the day, and I don't know if they're still about, but you used to be able to get what's called like slow TV, where you see like a train journey. And one of the train journeys that was on slow TV was the journey across the Arctic Circle through Norway, and you could just watch the train. He used to go to sleep to it when he was like 1.5, 2. I used to sit and watch with it, and it's so relaxing. So I would love. So it's definitely somewhere I would love to go, but I just haven't been there yet. Also, you know, you're probably not into it, but you guys love the Eurovision Song Contest, and so do I. So, well, as I've discussed earlier this year, it is a sign, an avatar for chaos. The Eurovision Song Contest, a real-time battleground between eristic and anaristic forces in the world. So, Algo, a mentor comrade figure rather than a literal god. Yeah, but she'll claim she is a literal god. She's a literal god. She definitely is. She's got all the things that make someone a god. Vast power, a disinterest in meddling in human affairs, and an intangibility that is just literally divine. So, you know, she's a god. I too am an autistic, but instead of trains, I have a critical theory special interest. Well, there we go. You can't. I mean, yeah. Even with a critical theory special interest, those slow. You can still can. It's on YouTube. Yeah, excellent. So yeah, those slow train journey. They're very meditative. It's amazing. So yeah. So yes. Oh no, don't see her that way. Like, I don't think she literally exists in the way people do it. But that's the point. You see that. Actually, the way into this is from another child of chaos who never really bothered with Discordianism. It was totally out of fashion when he was big. But Terry Pratchett wrote a book called Hogfather, where somebody... Terry Pratchett invented the Discworld. The Discworld is a fantasy world that's like a piss take of fantasy worlds in general in literature, and he used it to talk about real world things and philosophical issues. You know, just that's what he did. And one of his books was called Hogfather, in which the Discworld's version of Father Christmas is abducted. And at one point in the book, someone points out that the Hogfather, Father Christmas, is important. It's important that you believe in a small lie like Father Christmas, because if you believe in a small lie like that, and all of its inconsistencies and all of its bad parts, like wholeheartedly believe, then you can believe in a massive lie like justice. Yeah? That's the point. These little things are like training wheels for really big ideas, accepting really big ideas that, and he knew, the universe is fundamentally chaotic. There's no justice. Justice doesn't exist. But if you can believe in small things like a guy who dresses in red because of a soda and comes down your chimney to leave presents for children Whether they're really good or bad, although there is a whole thing about that, but really he just leaves presents for rich children whose parents are rich. Yeah, no, he's not so keen on poor children. They don't get as much, but we don't know why that is. That's one of life's eternal mysteries. But if you can believe in that, really put your heart into that, then you can somehow try and accept or will into being, justice, hope. Benevolence is a real thing. It's actually biologically proven to be a very successful method of life thriving, and if you're good to other things, if you're kind, not a fool, not a sucker, but just generally you're like, hey, live and let live, be good to each other, be excellent to each other. That's a way to thrive. And any time that you try and lock it down, control it, exert control, that forces you eventually into a position where you fall over and fail. The system just dies. It's like science. So we don't have to believe. Benevolence isn't a lie. It's real, and it's how we are going to live eternally, if that's what we're going to do. So there we go. Cool. So that was Q&A. Very good. Very nice. I like it. Everybody was asking like tents, hammocks, and gods. How to explain gods. I mean, it will make it hard to explain to a child. Children, as you know, implicitly believe in Father Christmas because they get something out of it, admittedly, but they do. And so asking them to believe in a goddess of chaos, small potatoes to a child. Very much so. Very much so. Of course, it's the World of Chaos section of the show, as mandated by Eris herself. She said, I'm tired of putting on all these faces for you guys, trying to teach you lessons by doing dress up like some kind of weird cosmic Mr. Ben, British UK reference. Look it up. So now you're going to have to do a kind of a news segment. What's going on in the World of Chaos this week? Well, first of all, politics in the Western world is dissolving. It's not, you see, because people are very keen to run for anarchy, chaos, describing broken. That's a word they use. But I'm perceiving it more as like if you drop a soluble tablet into water, yeah, and it's maybe a Mento into a Coke. That's probably more like it. And as the Mento dissolves, so foam goes everywhere. Yeah, that's what we've got. So, yeah, I think that's the point. The key point here in the World of Chaos is the chaoticians among us, which should be all of us, should recognise that rather than it just like breaking, politics is slowly dissolving like the flesh of a corpse in some kind of acid, revealing the skeleton underneath. And that's where we're at. And this is where we learn that the map is not the territory for real, which is great because we've had an era which lasted quite a long time, a very long time, in which certain individuals could manipulate an image of reality through consensus into making that into sort of something approximating, the illusion we call society. Civilization, more illusions which are important to believe in, and that lasted for a very, very long time. And the acts and processes of those people who were shaping our reality, came more and more to the fore of they foolishly, like, they started letting people know a little bit, and then there was an era towards the end of the last century where people talked about spin and advertising and the political game, and then we invented, like, with the internet became widespread and we started to put all that stuff together, and we've now tipped over in the balance where those people who used to be able to manufacture reality, they can't anymore. Like, we've just reached the point and everyone's starting to panic, because our current Prime Minister in the UK is trying to push us towards a stupid war in a foreign country that we should have no involvement with, and on which the grounds of legality are very shaky. And he's thinking that he can do this, because we had a similar Prime Minister in the 1990s who did exactly that. But it's a completely different world now, and it's just not working. Nothing he says, nothing that anyone says in that political arena lands the same as it used to, and all they've got is an old playbook. And that's why politics is dissolving, because we need new politics for a new era where you can't just do all the things that you used to be able to do. But politics is very, very keen on staying exactly the same as it always was, because it's such a horrendous game with such high stakes that nobody wants the rules to change. But the rules have changed, and that's reflected here by what we say. The map is not the territory, and that's what politicians in the Western world are now finding out, that their map of how to manipulate people and how to enact change in the world is not working. And it's a terrible time to be a politician. I feel very sorry for the poor loves, but there we are. And so the doors to the Chapel Perilous hang wide open. We've had quite a lot of discussion this evening, so I can just leave that there for you, or if you insist, I'll explain the Chapel Perilous. But maybe that should be a deep thought for another week. That's what I'm thinking. Does anyone really want to know what the Chapel Perilous is? I could do a really brief one. Okay, it's a place where all the maps run out. It's a state of being in your mind where none of the maps of reality you've built check out, where everything that you're experiencing tells you that reality is not what you thought it was. And you either then become completely paranoid or completely liberated. And the doors to that chapel, the doors to the Chapel Perilous, are currently wide open for all of Western society. Anyone who wants to push themselves in the direction of the chapel is welcome to do so, with the caveat that they might emerge from it a complete paranoid nutjob. So, it's just there. We're just saying. You can go to the chapel. You won't be getting married. But you might become a nutjob. So, there is that. In addition, we also learn that word games have become the Thunderdome. That is that one of the things that has been laid bare in this whole dissolving politics arena is that we are now becoming, as a Western society, hyper aware of how concepts and phrases are being, you will, liar. I am a liar. Very much so. Everything I say has to be lies and the truth and meaningless all at the same time. And so you've decided to perceive me as a liar. Therefore, what was it? This is how to explain the word games have become the Thunderdome thing perfectly. Is that in 2005-ish, George Lucas, he of Star Wars fame, released The Revenge of the Sith. And in this, at one point, Obi-Wan Kenobi shouts at Anakin Skywalker during their massive lightsaber duel on the molten lava planet. Anakin, Emperor Palpatine is evil. And Anakin shouts back, don't you see, from my position, the Jedi are evil, right? And at the time, this just went into the rest of the soup as silly, overwrought dialogue written by George Lucas. Yeah, like they were like, what the hell? That's not how people talk. And someone posted this as a meme the other day and goes, here in 2025, we've just realised this is now exactly how people talk. And I'm like, holy crap, they're right. People really do go, but that's evil. And then somebody else goes, but from our point of view, you're evil. They really do. They're doing it every day, all over the world, on social media platforms, anywhere. I mean, what's even more ironic is that George Lucas had the presence of mind to place Obi-Wan and Anakin on platforms during that dialogue exchange. Who knew that they were a metaphor for social media platforms? You know, they were just... And they're on molten lava. It's a flame war. Wow. So yeah, that's what it is. Concepts are starting to slip and slide, you know, and people take up... And, you know, there's a lot of, if I just say it, it'll be true. I hate people who say that. Who say which bit. Yeah, this is right. This is my next point. Weird. I know I wrote these, but I very rarely remember what they say. Yeah, some people like to therefore take this kind of malleability of reality and do stuff like, I don't know, declare a ceasefire in a war that dissolves within 6 hours. Because although that didn't work out, that whole thing of saying, well, if I just declare a ceasefire... But this is the thing, right? Okay, and I'm not saying that anyone who might have tried a tactic like this was thinking this. But the Berlin Wall literally came down because someone took a phone message wrong. That's all it was. Like, they thought that they'd received a message that said it's coming down. And that they say no to any argument or discussion without any reason, just no. But that's the thing. This is exactly... You've brought it to... You're there. You're vibing with it. It's going now, yeah? This is the whole point of reality, is what I say it is. Some people try and enforce reality. What we don't... The difference is this. If you consciously go, hey, you know what? I don't like this war that has started kind of because of me dicking about to a certain extent. I'm just going to say it's over and that we've got peace, and I'm sure people will run with it because I'm sure that's what people want. Yeah? Which is actually, ironically, for a senile old goat, in this day and age, you know, if only he hadn't been who he is, they even stood a chance of working. But if he'd even had the presence of mind to remember the Berlin Wall, which he almost certainly didn't, right? The reason that came down because somebody said, I think I just received a message said it's all coming down. And then it just went, did they say it's coming down? They were. He didn't that person who misheard what had been on the phone didn't mean to bring about the collapse of the division between the communist East and the capitalist West. He didn't mean to do that. He just misheard something on a phone. And then they ripped the whole thing down, and David Hasselhoff had a #1 German single, which is, you know, Knight Rider singing, obviously heralds the end of division between East... I don't know. That whole thing went down because nobody meant it to. But I think if you deliberately try and play the game, if you deliberately say reality is what I say it is, I think that has much poorer results. Nobody has that amount of willpower. Nobody. Yeah, I can't think of a single person who in the history of the world has ever gone, hey, I'm just going to say, oh, it should be in bloody game mode. Why did nobody tell me that you couldn't see the bloody slide? You're just hypnotised by me going on. And I read them out anyway. But let's just do the last one. Then I'll go back to the other view. Here is a quote. It's not just a quote from Robert Anton Wilson. It's the title of a screenplay that he wrote. I do in TF2. Yeah, in video games, fine. I'm organising a revolution that will liberate London in Turn Up the Music. Yeah, I knew it was quite low, but I just like slammed the slider across. There we go, that should do you. I just went, hey, slider, get over there. So yeah, that was it. So yeah, reality is what you can get with. It is the title of an unproduced, in fact unpublished, screenplay for a movie that Robert Anton Wilson wrote. He wrote a movie and he called it Reality is What You Can Get Away With. And it has to be said, I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of... I could just play the music for an hour if you'd rather. But yeah, he wrote this screenplay, called it that, and then because the only thing anyone knows is the title, that became sort of a thing, like a little pre-meme action. People would be like, reality is what you could get away with. I've put a question mark on it in the slide. I'll just share that with you. Look, question mark. Reality is not what we say it is. Reality also isn't what we can get away with. What's the song name? This one is... where's the list? Playlist. It doesn't... Bloody VLC. I tell you what, right? I just want to see the list, the playlist. And it's not playing games with this. It is playing games with me. Hold on. Go down into a third. View playlist. Must be view. Playlist. There we go. This one is called Oui Señor. It is from an album of royalty-free electro swing called Seriously Swung by a man called... It's in the YouTube notes. It's in the album name is in the YouTube notes of every YouTube upload because I always give credit. So I don't even need to. He sells the music on the basis where you can use it royalty free without attribution if you just buy it. But I would want someone always to be able to find it. So if you just go to a YouTube video, and I know you've been to a YouTube video of one of these before because you left me a note one time which you'd run out of ChatGPT, thus eroding your critical faculties and turning you into a simpleton, which has been scientifically proven now, I want to hasten to add. It's a good job you come here to sharpen up those critical thinking skills, to tell me I'm a liar, to challenge me. Because if you didn't, your brain would be soup now because you're overusing ChatGPT. AI, as we all know, is a scam. And it's just becoming scammier every day. So I don't agree with the sentiment in retrospect. Be quiet, please. I've told you where to get the full track list. You don't need to run it through Shazam or whatever. You can just go to a YouTube video and look in the notes. It'll give you a link to the album where the music is and you just listen to the tracks. Seriously? Is this what the upcoming generation is like? Good grief. The world, as all old people say, the world is in trouble. Although over the past few years it's become apparent it's in trouble from the old people and not from the young people they're blaming. But let's leave that. Shazam! Yes, that is the music. Anyway, reality is not what you can get away with because that is adjacent to Crowley, and you shouldn't be listening to Crowley either. Yeah, not wholeheartedly, and he's very boring and pompous. So yeah, no Crowley. But yeah, reality is perceivable through a system of mystical sonar. Put it out, see what comes back, interpret the result, then you'll know what reality is. Or you won't, because I don't, but I've got a slightly better idea than other people. I can definitely tell when people are outside of it. So there we go. That was the world of chaos. Hopefully we'll have a more specific world of chaos soon, where something's chaotic. It's so difficult to find something chaotic that's happened in the world. It's really not. That's the point. You throw, a small red candy and you'll hit chaos in the current world. That's how it works. But it is time once more for the only quiz where you subconsciously manifest the answers to the questions. It is reflective tarot. Got to be the heavy. I'm wondering what tarot card would the heavy be. I'm sure we'll come across... Oh! Strength. I'd suggest checking Anarchist Counter Info Project. For what? Checking them for what? Bearing in mind the fact that if by checking you mean read literature about, I have to disbelieve all of it, being a Discordian. Not strength. So which tarot card, as you know so much, TF2 Real Gamer 2022, is the Heavy from Team Fortress 2. Chaotic things that have happened in the world. Yeah, okay. I can understand that. Yeah. But chaotic things that happen in the world, I mean, they come through from everywhere. I mean, one of the things that happened that was pretty chaotic this week, but I only heard about it this morning, and I didn't really have much to say beyond the fact that it happened, is that guy who got memed for doing a morning routine where, you know, he dunked his face in ice water all the time and then hovered in the air above a swimming pool before hitting it for up to 7 minutes, I believe, and told someone that he had to go for 10,000. But, you know, we all know he was talking about hedgehogs. So that's interesting. Emperor or strength? You said it wasn't strength, but the Emperor is a good shout as well. That's fine. So you too are a liar, but that's good. We all are. Good to embrace it. But he and the popular YouTube streamer, memer, don't know, I Show Speed, they had a foot race. What I didn't know is that I Show Speed was called I Show Speed because he is a runner. And then that guy, I Show Speed, unsurprisingly beat the guy who was just like a weightlifter and fitness guy in ice water. And then that guy threw a shit fit. And I was like, well, that's pretty chaotic. Because why would you? The Chariot. Interesting that you should say that. Anyway, we're going to find out what this week's card is. Is it any of those three? We had a loud secret last week, which was cool. But this week, are we going to be the same choice? Oh, before I do this, by the way, this is the last service in Bloon. And I've learnt the Bloon vibe, which is that it just floated away and it was full of hot air. So it turns out the goddess was joshing with me. Yes, that's not very useful to me. It's literally one of those story moments. We go, oh, Bloon. Yeah, so yeah, there we go. That's why this month was Bloon. Floated away, full of air. So there we go, cool. And here is, I think we've got the Six of Swords. Oh my lord. So it's a sneaky secret, not a loud secret. So yeah, this is a very cool card. I love this card as it happens, just as a concept. Because of course, as we know, swords. Sorry, it takes me a while to figure out where it should be, so that I can talk and you can still see the card. So there we go. That's where it should be. So the Six of Swords vibe is swords. Okay, swords, the suit of bullshit. And by bullshit, I mean all the stuff that annoys you in real life that just comes flying at your head, right? That is what swords is. There's a high-minded way of saying, oh, it's intellect and wit and all of that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, all the stuff that's buzzing through people's minds intellectually, separated from their heart, that they choose to expunge into the world to annoy and frustrate other people. That's swords, right? And the six is the number, so 5 is the number of what happens in the absence of, or what happens when it is unnoticed, or it goes unchecked, or people aren't looking at it, basically. Yeah. And the 6 is kind of a recovery from the 5. It's kind of like a large sort of blankety familial sort of family. Yeah, family is a good way, like extended family. 4 is more like the tight family unit. 6 is like a sort of more expanded family vibe. And what this is saying is that support networks help you to get away from the bullshit. Wow, that's a... So as you can see, there's a person in a boat, and the boat's got loads of swords in it. And it's saying, you know, it's kind of, so there's a double sort of implication here. One is, if it is your support network that's causing you grief and filling your boat up with swords, then get away. But if on the other hand it is the world that has given you the swords, maybe this boat is taking the person away to a refuge where they can hang out with their tribe. Yeah, so those are the kinds of vibes we're talking. What we're talking about is getting away from all your worries. Sure would help enough. So the theme tune from Cheers, well, part of a lyric from the theme tune of Cheers. That is this week's Reflective Tarot. And now we pass, of course, to the end, the final thing that needs addressing. on this service because it is Friday. And as we know, the goddess on a Friday, and thus the rest of us, departed from the company of people and joyously partook of a hot dog, but she did not have any buns. So we too must eat our hot dog without buns. And if you do not have a hot dog, then something else will do. Any kind of random consumable. Mine is a small strawberry flavoured candy that somewhat resembles a miniature hot dog. But yours can be whatever consumable you like to consume. And of course, here at the E-Chapel, we have a little mantra that we incite before we consume. And it goes like this. I could not find a hot dog, not even with a bun. So I eat this random consumable because devotion comes with fun. Hail Eris! All hail Discordia. And that brings us to the end of a wonderful service. I have many thanks to give to my congregation, TF2 Real Gamer 2022 and MK Zariel, both of whom brought a little of their own chaotic magic into the circle for me to bounce around with, and it is always much appreciated. I am a lucky Pope to have such a congregation before me who prod me forward to rant my mad rantings, and so on. Or chat, gotta be the heavy. That's the spy from TF2. Holy shit! Wow, I didn't even see that. That's great. The spy. It's weird though. I don't know how many characters there are in TF2, and we don't have the expert in the room anymore. But there are 78 tarot cards, so they can't. I mean, maybe it all goes round in a circle. I mean, you know, there's what 4 1s, 4 2s, 4 3s, 4 4s, so on up to 10, and then there's 4 pages, 4 knights, 4 queens, 4 kings, and then there's all of the individual big cards as well. So yeah. So that's a whole thing. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me here. I have appreciated the company in the weirdo sphere of the Discordian service. Go with Eris and have a great week. And I shall be back with you in the next month, whatever the Dildes decides that month should really be called. For now, happy Bloon! It was full of hot air and it floated away. Ta-ra!